Recording.
Jordan Peterson?
Huh? What's up? Oh, you're okay. You're good. You're not. I don't think it's like.
No.
You should stand right in front of the camera.
There was an error.
Just stand right in front of the camera and yell into it.
Oh!
No, we're not doing that.
But it would be so fun.
I like trying to scoot
The
over.
reason I don't like it is so.
Screw job.
What's up?
Picking up more chicks with like this crowd?
No.
I mean, these are screwed up.
He needs the top hat. That's all he needs.
He would always
He has
find
a-
he
he has a-
You get like
a
this?
pronoun necessary. But he did
I won't
not like
say
that.
it really loud, but it's like.
I just have just in case.
We all know he got into a fight with an alligator. He doesn't need to hide it.
I always said that he would use
I'm wearing
it.
Kevlar into this because at any moment.
But he always said Canada should not have lunch.
Yeah. Hard, core. It's okay.
Because I remember it.
I'm here.
Watch like the news and everything.
Actually, you're there.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming to my key presentation. Today we're going to talk about credit reports.
Freaking lame.
Whoa.
Hey.
Oh.
Just kidding. We're not talking about credit reports. That's actually what I have to do like an hour after this. So that's why I'm wearing
That's
this.
just a ruse to get the FBI to not look at our.
All on a watch list somewhere.
So,
All right. Thank you
talk about
everyone
bricks.
for being here.
Let's talk about bricks.
We are ready to get started. Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for coming out to our October monthly meeting. We are going
oh, you
to,
didn't on that side real quick.
Sally will give us a few words.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys. So, if you haven't signed into the meeting, sign in so we know that you're participating. Also, if y'all have not paid your membership dues, today's the last day you can do that. However, that is only if you joined our club before our first meeting, which I believe was our September meeting, which I believe is September 13th. Yeah. So if you have not, if you filled out our interest form or just recently found out about us, please do not worry about that. You can contact me through the group meet any way possible, just to like ask me about the dues and everything like that. However, for anyone that just joined before that date, your dues are due today, after this meeting, or if you need an extension, let me know now. I'm going to be leaving in like 20 minutes or so, but yeah, it'll be, if you pay your dues, you'll be able to get free entry into our social at the pumpkin corn maze hoo-ha thing. Yeah, and also I just want to give a formal announcement. I am going to be leaving my position as treasurer. So if anyone is interested in the position anyway, please let me know. I can talk to you more about it or express interest to one of the other officers. We will be talking about this a little bit more later in the meeting, but there will be an upcoming October election. There's also plenty of other ways to get involved with the org if you don't want to deal with money, but like I've talked to Robert about it already, given him a whole spiel about it. I can give you the same spiel too, just letting you know the details and the duties with it. All right, that's all I have to say.
Also, up here, the meeting sign, and that's going to be your first experience with the Point Portal, and I'll explain that later, but see if you can figure it out. It's pretty intuitive, but good luck.
All right, just a quick layout of what we're going to be talking about today. We're just going to have a recap from everything we've done this past month. And then Anna's going to talk about her VP committee as well as upcoming socials, tabling, volunteering events, ACL status, as well as our upcoming schedule. And then later on, Melissa's going to talk about membership points and PR updates. So let us welcome Anna.
Okay, so, so this is kind of a recap recap of everything we've done in the past month. So we registered a bunch of people to vote. I think we had about 35 people or so. We had the Ask an Atheist Day, we went to our protest, we had a bunch of money from the concession stands. I think actually more than that. I think this one only has the number from like the last concession stands. But every concession stand we make about $200 for the club. So if you haven't volunteered already, I highly recommend that. And then we also hung out with ACL at the game nights, did a bunch of cool stuff with the cleanup. We're still doing the book club. The only thing that had to get canceled were the paddleboard social due to the weather and lava getting colder. And then we also had to cancel the band book weeks just because the clubs that we tried to coordinate with to make it happen, only 2 of them responded, and we didn't want to make it like a debate between the 2 clubs, so we decided to just kind of scrap that idea. But yeah, that's what happened with that. Now, I'd like to introduce to you guys the VP committee, the VP committee that I have going on. So we have, I'm gonna take the mask off just one time. But we have Yvette as our new tabling coordinator. So from now on, everything that has to do with tabling, planning the tablings, and all that cool stuff, he's gonna be doing that. So all thanks to him from now on to all the tablings. And then we have Rox as our communications coordinator, so she's going to be sending you the updates about everything we have going on in the group meets and Discord and all that kind of stuff, just so you all are updated about what we have going on. And then we have Abram, who's going to be helping me set up the events, so like whenever we have socials or when we have whatever events we're doing, like the volunteering events, if I need somebody to come there earlier and like help me set up, this is the person who's going to help me. And then I also have Carlos, who volunteered for a little bit. He doesn't have a whole lot of time commitment, but he still volunteered to help me, so I appreciate him as well. So this is my committee as of right now. And I have
VP squad.
Hey, VP squad, yes. And then as of right now, I still need one more person in my committee. There's still 1 spot open, so like, if you just looked at that slide and you were like, wow, these guys are so cool, like I want to be in that committee, like you can still be in it, there's 1 spot open. Okay, so this is just kind of like the events breakdown that I did for the next month. We have a lot of volunteering and tablings planned. We also have some social events and fundraising events and discussions. It seems to be a pretty balanced chart this month, so we're gonna go straight to the events. So our first social is the Corn Maze social. Did we fix the link on this one? Okay, so if you want to scan this QR code, it will take you to RSVP for our Corn Maze social. The cool thing about this one is that it's free for you if you paid your dues. So this is one of the benefits you get as a club member. It's going to be on October 21st at 6 p.m. up until 9 p.m. And yeah, bring snacks if you want to. You can also bring pets. I asked specifically about it, so like if you want to bring your dog, go for it. But yeah, we're going to go through Corn Maze and the pumpkin patch if you want to and have fun. And then for the tabling events, these were the 2 tabling events that I had left, but they already passed, so we don't care about those anymore. But these are the 3 tablings we have going on for the next month, up until the next general meeting. So these are the ones that Yvette's going to be planning. The one that's coming up right now is the one where we're going to give you some information about abortions, because it's one of the topics that we take on. So we're going to have some like fetal development information on the table, and just like table packed with a bunch of information, and you could, the Texas Tech people could just come in and ask us about our stances on abortion, or what happens, you know, in the process, or you know, different abortion laws and stuff like that, and have a discussion with us about it. So that's the first thing that's going on. We also have the Graveyard of the Gods. This is the event that's also going to be a tabling event, and this is meant to celebrate all of the gods that have been worshipped all over history. Not all of them, but some of the gods that have been worshipped through history that are not worshipped anymore. And it's kind of to show people that gods come and go, and the gods that they may be worshipping may not be around for that long, not as long as they think they will be. So we will set up a bunch of like little graves for the gods that have existed before, and we'll put them in the free speech area. And we'll have a table right next to them so that people can come and ask us about them. And then also on November 2nd, we have our January tabling. So just kind of like a regular table where you can come in, pick up our regular stickers, ask us how cool we are as a club and all that cool stuff. And then if you want to sign up for the table links, this is the QR code that you will take. We take attendance at all the table links, and so if you want to get kind of points that I think Melissa is going to talk about later, but we're going to take points for people who attend our events, and if you get a lot of points at the end of the semester, you can get a prize. And then we also had, so I'm just going to have a little bit of updates in the volunteering opportunities. If you remember, if you were at the last annual meeting, this is the three options I presented, and we had a vote on them. So the one that got the most votes, it was I think like 15 out of 16 people that voted, were the animal shelter, because I guess we're atheists and we are filling the holes in our hearts with pets. I understand that. So this is the one we're going to try to set up the first our first volunteering. And then in the next place came the Science Spectrum Museum, which is also understandable. We like to care about science and learn about that kind of stuff. So these are the two I'm trying to work with. I have reached out to them. They have not responded to me in any way, but I will try more. I know there's like other animal shelters around Lubbock too, so maybe we can go to a different shelter. But I will keep you updated on whatever comes from that. Now, the atheist community of Lubbock is doing a lot of things this month. So they're still doing the book club. If you've been part of a book club, they're meeting every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. and they're talking about whichever books they're reading at the moment. So right now they're reading The Founding Myth. I think they're about like in the middle of the book, maybe towards the end of the book, but you can join at any point. So like even if you haven't been reading up until now and like just now decided to catch up and join the club, you can still do it. It's a nice little space. And then we also still have the concession stands. Again, every time you miss the concession stands, you miss Jason holding the sausages, and you don't want to do that. And every time you go to the concession stands, you make money for the club and we get to have fun events like the corn maze. And then we also have highway cleanup on November 2nd. I think it's actually, never mind. But yeah, the highway cleanup is another thing ACL is doing where they adopt a portion of a highway and they clean it on one of the Sundays, I think. So yeah, this is what's happening. And then the last one that they haven't, you probably haven't seen yet is the No String Attached event. So this is the one that happens on November 6th. And this is I think the second one they're doing where they're preparing different packages with food and like useful supplies for homeless people. And they just go on like, they pick a couple of streets around Lubbock and they'll give the packages away to homeless people. So if you want to volunteer with helping prepare the packages or helping like distribute the packages, this is going to be kind of like a big event that they're doing. They did another smaller one at the beginning of the semester. But yeah. And then another cool thing that ACL is doing is the Halloween party. So this is the only one that doesn't have to do with like work and volunteering. This is the one for us to just have fun. It's going to be, as of right now, on October 30th at 7 p.m. at the UU, like the Universalist Unitarian Church. It's completely free. You can bring snacks and you can just have fun with a bunch of Lubbock heathens.
It's Saturday, by the way, not Thursday.
Oh wow. Okay, I'll fix that. Thank you. And then this is what our schedule ends up looking like as of right now. So this schedule has all of our tabling events, everything that I just talked about. A couple of things that are on the schedule that I haven't talked about separately are, sorry, my phone was doing weird thing. A couple of things that are on the schedule that I haven't talked about are just the National SSA events. So the National SSA holds Zoom meetings where you can join as a member, and just they have sometimes different topics, sometimes it's just like a general meeting. But I went to it once in the past month, and it's actually kind of fun because you get to meet like other people on the Zoom meeting from other chapters from like different states, and get to see what the atheist scene is like in different states and make connections. So I recommend if you're interested in like some of the, I put the topics that they're doing as well. So if they're interested in the topics they're discussing, or you just want to meet other people from other states, you can join those Zoom meetings. They're usually in the evenings. And then this is the schedule. This is all I have up until next time. The only other thing I will add that's not on the PowerPoint is that we will have more officer positions open up. So Sally just talked to you about the treasurer position. So what we decided to do is we're also going to split up my position into several positions so that our calendar can be even better. So I will finish up the list of the positions, and I will send the form to join probably tonight in all of our chats, and Lauren will probably email you that information as well. So if you're interested, you can join, but what will end up happening is that we'll probably have a separate chair for our social events, and a separate chair for our volunteering events, and a separate chair for doing the stuff with ACL and other clubs. So we just want to split those up so that each of those people have a lot of time to develop those events and to make them better for everyone. So yeah, if you're interested in doing part of what right now is the VP position, you can ask me questions about how I've been doing it. You can ask me about what kind of a time commitment it would take, all those kind of questions, and I will send the information about it later today as well. But yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, so going off of what Anna said, so the officer elections are going to be next Monday. We're going to hold it in person, but also you'll have 24 hours to vote. And then also, pretty much what Anna said, these are the positions that we have available. You must be available to attend weekly meetings. That's the main thing. We have officer meetings. Hopefully, they're probably going to be made weekly, but at least bi-weekly. But these are the officer positions we have available. Internal vice president, they manage the chair positions and coordinate with SGA. External vice president, they're going to be the people talking with ACL and keeping us in communications with them. We have the outreach chair, they're going to be doing a lot of tabling events. Social is going to be planning social, volunteering, or service is going to be doing volunteering, fundraisers. And then treasurer is going to do what the treasurer does, budget and funds and all. This is how you become an officer. 1, are you interested? Yay. Email all officers. Use the CC function. If you don't know who the officers are, you should probably find out. And then you have to email that by the day before the elections, which is on Sunday. Then for the election, like I said, we have it in person. Prepare a 30 to 60 second speech. If you cannot make it, record yourself, send a video, and that will go on the Google form that people will be sent to vote on. And then, yeah, like I said, you'll have 24 hours to vote in case you weren't able to make the actual meeting. Now the point portal. So the member with the most points at the end of the semester, kind of like what Anna said, will get a prize. Here's one of our options for prizes.
Yo!
It has a little mark on it, but you could potentially win that.
Yes. Okay. So this is the point breakdown. This is how you would get your points. So at the beginning of the meeting, if you were here, there was that QR code you scan. You just got a point for being at the meeting. Good job. You're 1 point closer to winning a dope shirt.
Or a sweatshirt.
Or a sweatshirt. There's a possibility for a sweatshirt as well. You get to choose if you are that person. So here's how the breakdown works. If you are doing volunteering or tabling events, you get 1 point per hour. If you're doing tabling and you do it for half an hour, that rounds up to 1 point. If you go to a social, like our corn maze, if you show up to a meeting like this one, or if you go to a fundraiser, which hopefully will get planned, you get 1 point for that as well. And then max of 5 points per event. I don't see any of our events going longer than 5 hours anyway. Does anyone have any questions on that? Is that pretty straightforward? Cool.
I'm just going to add, the only thing we forgot to mention about the officer position. So right now we have committees. After we choose all of those other officers, we're going to eliminate the committees because we're not going to need as many people under each officer. So if you're on a committee right now and you want to become an officer, that's an option. Or if you're thinking about joining the committee, you might as well run for an officer position. So yeah.
Yes, and it's really important that you email us in order to be nominated.
And also, you must pay your dues before the election or anything like that. If you're thinking about joining and you need some more time to consider it and you want to vote or you want to run for an officer position, please let me know.
All right, now set for some public relations updates. The main one is that I'm starting a podcast. You may have noticed from the million of text messages I've been sending in a group meet. It's going to be probably called Exploring Secularism. Here's some info about it. It's going to be audio video recorded, so it's going to be a podcast, but it's also going to go on the YouTube channel, like this general meeting will be. The recording will take place pretty much next week for the next 10 days at Park East. It'll be like a discussion format. I'll be the host. I'm not looking for debate. We're looking for yelling or anything like that. It's just going to be a chill environment to get lots of different perspectives. You get 2 points for doing it because you have to fill out a Google form, which will be on the next page. Then you also get to talk to me. And your voice matters. If you feel like it doesn't, come join the podcast. It'll be on YouTube. Here's some of the questions for the specific episode that I'm looking for. Have you had any negative or positive experiences with religion? How does religion affect your life? Stuff like that. So it's very personal, more your experience, not something like abortion rights, women's rights, and all that stuff. It's more like personal experience with religion. Here's the QR code. Here's the QR code if you're interested. We do have one person from the Muslim Student Association who's interested. She already filled it out. We have one person from our organization who already filled it out. And I am talking with about 4 different Christian organizations who are interested. So please don't embarrass me and make me have a bunch of Christians and nobody from our organization, guys. Thank you. And then here's the point portal as well again if you missed assignments, and then the membership dates.
All right. So let's give another round of applause to our amazing members. They made all of They work harder than you guys would believe. Our committee members spend hours of their day. They take time out of all the other activities they do. They work for RISE. They work for Red to Black. They are presidents of other organizations. They are sacrificing an enormous amount so that we can have a community where we don't have to be afraid of being taunted or being stigmatized for the way we are. So, one more time, round of applause, please. Someone asked me about the Uncle Scrooge look earlier. I wish I had a cool story, like, you know, I was struck down in battle with Ryan Denton or something like that. But I unfortunately have more of a Greg Abbott story. So I was, there was a stray Chihuahua on the street, and I was pitiful enough to pull over and try to bring it to me, and I ended up running, and I haven't done running in years, and so I appear to have injured my leg while doing that. But I should be in tip-top shape probably by Friday, so no worries there. Speaking of Greg Abbott, happy Indigenous Peoples Day, y'all! I think it's really good that sort of as a society we're moving towards a more inclusive and more accepting view of minorities and of cultures that have not gotten what I think is their fair representation. One of the main driving forces for why the conquest was so bad, why it was so bad that people came to this land or people came to other lands and decided to make them their own. One of the things that I think made it really bad was this merging, this sort of unholy bastardization with religion and government. Two things that we know now in hindsight that should never be mixed. Fortunately, the United States does have a few safeguards for that. There is, of course, Thomas Jefferson, who enshrined it in our Declaration of Independence that all men, and hopefully we see fit to amend it to all men, women, and all people are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights by nature and of nature's God. People didn't know how to interpret this back then. A lot of people were very unsettled. It's very funny to hear Christian nationalists today talk about how nature and nature's God is supposed to be the same thing as Yehovah or Yahweh. It's very interesting to hear that argument come from them because back then, the most conservative Christians who lived in Jefferson's time called him out as an atheist for not writing Jehovah into the Declaration of Independence. They slandered James Madison for not putting God in the Constitution. It only mentions God, I believe a total of 2 times. There's 2 times where it mentions God. And it's explicitly preceded by the word no. So, the United States also has other safeguards. In 1954, a certain senator you guys may or may not have heard of, Mr. Lyndon Baines Johnson, was a senator from Texas. He pushed something called the Johnson Amendment. Some of you may have heard of the Johnson Amendment, some of you may not have heard of the Johnson Amendment. Let me break it down for you. During his run for re-election, Senator Johnson had it in the bag. The other guy was a newbie to politics, had no experience, didn't have super PACs, couldn't be funded in any way, form, or fashion. And Johnson was like, I'm the incumbent, I'm the big shot, okay? I'm gonna be the next senator from Texas again. Until his chances weren't that secure. Two nonprofit organizations categorized under the 501c3. If y'all know what a 501c3 organization is, it's an organization you can donate money to, and you can write off that donation as a tax return. So you basically get rewarded for donating to this organization. Two nonprofit 501c3s decided to start supporting Johnson's opposition. They started donating millions and millions of dollars worth to his campaign. They printed out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth in printed material against Johnson, slandering him with multiple titles ranging from secularist to communist to a few terms that I actually don't think are appropriate for this conversation. But Johnson started seeing his opportunities slip through his hands. He asked the IRS, is there anything I can do? He asked the Congress, is there anything, the Supreme Court, is there anything I can do? He went up to the presidency and asked, is there anything I can do? Because these 501c3s were actually posing a challenge to him. He won that election, but he had a brilliant stroke of genius. He decided that he was going to amend the US tax code in such a way that 501c3s would not be permitted to participate in political discourse explicitly by endorsing or slandering political candidates, particular bills, elections, etc. Now, the bill passed with no discussion on the floor. It went through because he lied to the Congress and told them that the sponsor for the new tax code had already approved of it. They hadn't even heard of it. He managed to weasel that little bit into the tax code. Interestingly though, nobody thought of this at the time. Johnson wasn't thinking about churches. The President Eisenhower wasn't thinking about churches. The Senate wasn't thinking about churches. But churches are also 501c3 status charities. And not only that, they are the charity with the least supervision on their money. You've heard of Joel Osteen, probably. You've heard of these mega millionaire televangelists that say that God ordained them to buy a private jet while their donors are out on the streets and looking for a job during a pandemic. We know that churches don't get the supervision they should from the government. But on top of that, before the Johnson Amendment, people were being rewarded for donating to churches. And that can be good or bad depending on what the church does. But then churches started taking really political positions. So you might think, okay, well all I have to do is walk into a church, record whatever the pastor's saying. You know, if the pastor's over here saying, you know, F Joe Biden or Donald Trump will be king. I can just record this, send it to the IRS, and the IRS will dox their 401c3 status. Not how it works. A small coalition of megachurches has decided to record every single one of their political ramblings and sends it to the IRS every single year. Why? Because this particular section of the IRS code doesn't get enforced just by custom. So a pastor can kick people out of his congregation for not voting the way he wanted them to vote. A pastor can go ahead and discriminate against people who wear a mask. Y'all have heard of Greg Locke? Pastor Greg Locke he doesn't just not conform to mask mandates, vaccine mandates, or regular old precautions. He explicitly prohibits people. Why? His excuse is, we are a church that's supposed to live in faith, not in fear. Ironic that, you know, he also asks everyone to carry a gun into his church. But in any case, the Johnson Amendment doesn't get enforced at any level. There's only been one recorded instance, and that was during the Clinton campaign, when a church really went too far. They openly donated and publicized their checks to the opposition to Bill Clinton. They openly started printing out material to slander Clinton. They were going ahead and doing everything that went against the Johnson Amendment. Now, proponents for removing the Johnson Amendment, such as then President George W., Donald J. Trump, Mitch McConnell, Billy Graham, these people want to see the Johnson Amendment removed. Why? It's not even being enforced. Because they know that if people catch on and realize that churches, what we know to be true, that churches should not be making a profit off of political campaigns and shouldn't be giving other people a profit for donating to political campaigns, we know that's wrong. Johnson may have been selfish when he was making the bill, but that's just a red herring. The bill serves an important purpose. It promotes the separation of church and state. It ensures that religious zealots like Pastor Greg Locke, that people like Osteen, and anyone who runs a mega church or has overt control over a population can gain too much power in government. That's the purpose that the Johnson Amendment supports. Well, wait a minute. What about my free speech, my First Amendment? Don't churches have the right? They do. But you know what they don't have the right to? Being considered a charity, a 501c3, that's a privilege that you're granted by the government. That's not something you're just entitled to. And where you're not even supervised by the government on your transactions, you are playing very fast and loose when you decide to violate laws to try to, maintain your 501c3 status and reward people for donating and giving you power in a political campaign. So, what can we do? Well, right now, all we can hope for is that our representatives, that the people in Congress, that the people in the executive, that our president, that our senators can match our opinion in saying that we should tax the church. That's all I really have to say for you guys. I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this. If you have opposition to what I'm saying, then by all means, I'm open to a discussion. Thank you guys.